It's interesting. We're in this place with the Dallas Cowboys where they're a mess. And it's really hard to tell, are they this bad or are they just so injured that they can never get to whatever potential they had previously? Yesterday, there was a story. Jane Slater's a friend of the program, works at the NFL Network. She plus also has the Boys and Girl podcast for the Dallas Cowboys. It's on the Herd Podcast Network. Jane Slater broke the story. She had a quote from an unnamed player who said, they're not teaching us. They're not good at their jobs. This was Mike McCarthy responding to those reports.
You don't want to be stubborn and just do things to do things. And that's why I think it's important for all of our players and coaches, and it's something that I've stated in the first meeting. Let's just handle these things as men. Let's talk to one another. I'm your guy. I mean, I'll talk to anybody, in our inner circle, and I'll either agree or disagree with you, and I think it's important. But at the end of the day, it's about winning. We're in a business of putting players in position to win.
So that's a non-answer answer. That's basically him saying, really, you're going to go to a reporter instead of airing those grievances in one of our meeting rooms, right? Like, what are you doing? Which I would agree with. If you challenge coaches, especially, and we don't actually talk about this a lot, but I think if you challenge coaches, like the first thing you should do if you think your coach doesn't know what he's doing, or if he's putting you in a bad position, the first thing you should do is you go and sit with that coach in his office. You're like, can we have an open discussion about something, just something I've seen? The second chance you have is in your position meeting group meetings, where you can air your grievances. You have to do it kind of politically correctly. You can't just go like, well, this won't work, or that didn't work. That's on you guys. The third chance you have is in any sort of team meetings. And of course, you can be very vague. Hey, just so everybody's aware, like some of the stuff we don't really understand, and it's new to us, and we're not sure if it's being taught. Maybe we can slow down and break down and go back over things. If all of those are exhausted and then you go to the head coach and there's no change, well then, yeah, you're like, look, I brought it up with my coach, my position coach, in the meeting room, with the defense, with the head coach. I've done it over the last couple of weeks and nothing has changed. Well then, yeah, by all means, if you want to go and tell Jane Slater, like, we've been working on this and they're not getting any better, we're not getting any better. I find it, I don't find it irresponsible to go to the media. If you are 5 weeks into a season with a new coaching staff where you didn't have OTAs, you didn't have a normal traditional training camp, you didn't have preseason games, and you haven't aired those grievances with all of those different layers yet, then you know what? You're out of line going to the media. And I'm not one of these, you have to be a name source guy. Deep Throat was not a name source, and that seemed to be credible and brought down the president. But there's something kind of bigger at play here. This is one of those, at some point in time, it's not just the players or the coaches. At some point in time, it's the culture. How else can you explain? Now, look, the Cowboys, and this is always interesting, everybody said Jason Garrett can't coach. Like, do you realize that they were as good the last 5 years as they've been since 96? Over the last 5 years, they won 13, 9, 10, 8. And if you go back to the last year Romo was healthy, 12, then 4 when it was Whedon and Matt Castle and other guys. Okay. If you go back that year where they won 4 games, but if we realize since 1996, that was the last year that they had back-to-back 10-win seasons. 1996, I was a freshman in college in 1996. Okay, now you want to say the league is really hard. Couldn't agree with you more. League's very, very difficult. Very difficult. All right, let's take a look at, the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's look at their team and their franchise index, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers, they had 4 straight 10-win seasons up until 3 years ago. And last year, they only won 8 games, even though they played two quarterbacks after Ben Roethlisberger got hurt, and neither were any good. That's about culture. 6 different times the Steelers have had back-to-back double-digit win seasons since 2000. The Dallas Cowboys since 2000 have had 0. Now, part of it is they haven't changed. They only changed coaches once. Part of it is that's how ownership is. They're built around their defense. They're not flashy. They don't sign free agents for the most part, like all of these things. But there's something to your culture and the accountability of, hey, we screwed up. Let's go get better. Hey, we don't know what we're doing. Let's talk about it. I mean, the last guy to call out anybody on the Pittsburgh Steelers was Antonio Brown. Notice he's not on the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore. You know? I mean, the same is true for the Patriots. Look how many consecutive 10-win seasons they've had. That's the sign of a great season in the NFL. Everyone else is between 7-9 and 9-7. You win 10 games, you've done something special. The Patriots won 10 games with Matt Castle as quarterback. There's something to the culture of Dallas. The idea that, you screw up, Jerry's still going to take care of you. You're still a Cowboy. As long as you can make plays, they'll find a home for you. It's just fascinating to me on how it doesn't really matter who the coach is. You can sit here and tell me, well, Mike McCarthy's not a high-end coach, and it's Jerry who screws it up because he won't hire a big-time coach. Like, okay, well, I hate to be that guy, but Bill Parcells was the head coach for 4 years in Dallas. And he got frustrated because, I know Romo dropped the snap in the playoff game in Parcells last year there when they lost in Seattle in the wild card. And Parcells, as good a coach he is, 10 wins, 6 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins. Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, now Mike McCarthy, Chan Gailey. None of them can solve the riddle. Why? Because this starts at the top of their culture. You have an owner that rewards great talent, not necessarily great teammates. How many times do we have to see it to realize that's exactly what it is? And I could use all kinds of stats. I could be critical. I don't like the Mike Nolan hire. I'm not sure if the game's passed him by, but there's a reason that he hadn't sniffed a coordinator job, and it was payback for him hiring Mike McCarthy way back in the day. All of that said, yes, injuries play a major factor. But the other factor is you just don't have a culture where players are held accountable. You don't have a culture where players are called out, where players, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, well, damn it, you might do the wrong thing, but you'll at least do it hard. This team, if they don't know what they're supposed to be, if they're in the wrong gap, they just quit. They quit on their coaches, which does not bode well for Mike McCarthy in the short and long term, but also speaks poorly of the organization as a whole.